The Blues are hot. They are on fire right now. They are tied with Vancouver. They both have 73 points. They're tied in the race for the second wildcard spot out of the Western Conference. But the Blues are up against some pretty fierce competition. It's a tight race right now. There's two other teams that are in it right behind the Blues and the Canucks right on their tail. And St. Louis recently has outperformed many of our preseason expectations this year. But have they fixed some of their biggest problems from earlier on this season? We're talking things like special teams, especially. Have they done enough to address those moving forward? Today, we'll break down how the Blues are currently performing in some of their biggest weak areas historically and discuss what the Blues need to do in order to grab the advantage in this race and hopefully make the playoffs, all that and more on today's episode of Note News. Welcome into another episode of Note News. It's John and Alec with you as always. We're a St. Louis Blues podcast. We go live twice a week. We talk all things Blues. And right now we're talking about a fantastic wild card race. This is an exciting one. The Blues, after their win over the Anaheim Ducks last night, are currently tied, as I said at the top, with Vancouver, 73 points for that second wild card spot. Vancouver has the edge when it comes to points percentage, but the Blues are looking good, man. But anyways, if you haven't already, we'd appreciate if you would like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's the best way to support our work and help us out. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can follow and rate wherever you listen. We love to see that. And then we're also on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Note News Pod. You can follow along, see some other great stuff, know when we're going live, when we have special guests on occasion, all that good stuff. So be sure to follow along on all those platforms. We're doing a giveaway right now. Just want to plug this again. We're giving away a Cardinals hockey jersey. Super cool, for free. All you got to do is follow our Twitter account at Note News Pod. Retweet the tweet. It's pinned in our profile. Just retweet that. And then if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can post proof of your subscription in the comments for an extra entry. Double your chances. If you enter now, you got a pretty good chance to win that hockey jersey. So be sure to go check that out. But Alec, I've been yapping for a while. It's St. Patty's Day. Happy St. Patty's Day. Are you feeling lucky? Do you feel like this Blues team is doing lucky? Do you feel like this Blues team is lucky? What's your thoughts on the Blues this week?
I mean, I feel lucky as a Blues fan with the way that they're playing. Also, for the people, got my green. It is green.
Sure.
May or may not have had to throw that on pre-episode, but yeah, I mean, they've been playing some really, really great, fun hockey in their last couple of games. I think it just feels like the perfect culmination of everything that this team could have been. That this is sort of the ceiling for what this season could have looked like. We're getting to see it play out and over a consistent stretch of games, which is really fun. And then on top of that too, someone revealed to me, just thinking about that, this isn't even the peak of the retool. Think how fun things are now. Just wait until that one kid from Minnesota gets up on this team and that other Czech center and whatever offseason move happened, another year development for Broberg Holloway. This isn't even the peak of Blues hockey in the coming years. So that's really got me fired up. But in terms of this season, this is, I think everything is firing in all cylinders, and we now rightfully have the best odds on the dreaded money puck wheel. So I do not shout out the wheel, but it does favor us right now. It's just a frustrating graphic, but anyways, yeah, I feel lucky to be watching good hockey right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I also feel lucky. I want to do a quick little fun St. Patty's themed exercise here at the top. How much? Okay, I actually haven't thought this out entirely, but how much are the Blues' playoff hopes contingent on luck, and how much is contingent on, how much do they hold their fate in their own hands? What's your thoughts there?
I think a lot of it is not luck. I think a lot of it is them meshing as a team, playing like skilled hockey. Like the set plays that we've seen, especially on like the power play, has been excellent.
Yeah.
And I really think a lot of that is them just executing and isn't luck. Now, when like Radek Faxa and like Matthew Joseph are scoring, yeah, I think that is a little bit. But you know, I actually don't think this team necessarily is depending on depth quite as much as Blues teams in the past have. I really think that they're carried by their top six of the forward group, and also just like hard play from the bottom six, like not necessarily point production in the same way that depth scoring used to be the strength. I think they're really utilizing that, like especially the fourth line is getting deployed super well and just controlling play when they're on there, even though they're usually not putting up points like they did last night against Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
So in that regard, when the bottom six is like scoring or when defensemen are scoring, you could call that a little bit of luck perhaps, but I actually really like the way that they're playing, and I think they should be favored to take the last wild card.
I think I agree. It is a little bit of luck. You need these other teams to fall out of it just as much as you need to get into it, but it's like a little bit of both. Like mainly I feel like Calgary is the big one to keep an eye on with 3 games in hand and only what 2 points behind the Blues right now. So like you need a little bit of luck on that end, but in terms of what you're able to control, if they don't make the playoffs because they lose, right? Because of their performance, if they don't make the playoffs because they, you know, go out and lay an egg too many times, like that is only on them. And so I think with this sort of easier stretch of schedule remaining through the end of the season, they hold their destiny in their own hands in a lot of regards. And so I think this is a little bit more on the side of it's on them to go and grab it, and they're in a good spot right now. Since we last talked on our episode last week, the Blues lost to Pittsburgh. That was tough. That was a tough one. But then followed it up with back-to-back wins over Minnesota and Anaheim. What did you see in these games? Who stood out? What are your thoughts based on these past 3 games? Because it started out a little bit frustratingly, but I think vibes are super high back up again after this Anaheim victory. I can't hear you. You cut out. I don't gotcha. Alec will work on some technical difficulties trying to resolve that right now, but yeah, like this game against Pittsburgh was rough. They lost that one 5-3. That was in a lot of regards a goaltending struggle, at least the way I see it. Don't gotcha.
Check.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll finish my thought real quick. But I think it was a rough outing from the on the goalie side against Pittsburgh. It was just a tough way to lose that game, but they rebounded exactly how you'd hope they would with a victory over Minnesota, who so far this season has been the better team and holds that first wildcard spot, and then a huge victory over Anaheim. They were just clicking on all cylinders in that game. So I think, yes, it was frustrating, and you can't be dropping games to an opponent like the Penguins, but if you do lose, you want them to follow it up exactly the way they did. But what did you see, Alec? Who stood out, and what are your thoughts on these past 3 games?
Yeah, I mean, I really think the last couple games, even the Pittsburgh loss, which was really frustrating, I would still say that on it from my viewing, I think the Blues dominated that game still, and it was a
Oh
really
yeah,
frustrating goaltender game, really, and that's, um, that's not always the best way to look at things. But I mean, even looking at um, again, another tough talking point if you ask me, but it's a statistic, it's a model. The Money Puck deserved to win meter
yeah.
has the Blues winning that 88% of the time. 88% of the time they win that game. That's like that doesn't happen in their in their graphs. It's never that skewed. It's usually not above like 65 would be like you dominated in a game. So yeah, I mean they are absolutely clicking on all cylinders right now. Um, I've seen. I think that I really think looking back on this season, I don't know that we're ever going to be able to quantify the fourth line, how valuable they've been to this team.
Hmm.
But I mean, it's everyone who's watched this season knows that the WTF, the fourth line, has just been essential to this team's identity and to the heart and strength and skill, or not necessarily the skill, but the grit that they play with.
Hmm.
You know, when Jim Montgomery came in, that blue collar hockey was super quickly identified in that line. And they've been like often starting out periods as just like go be enforcers, you know, Torpchenko, go be a, what is he, 6'5", I think, body to try and out stick, you know, just be annoying. Nathan Walker, just be this little, I mean, perfect like human hockey recreation of a Tasmanian devil.
Oh yeah,
Um, and then
the
Radek
honey
Faksa is
badger.
like, yeah, exactly. Is this like defensive, like, I don't know, web, like spider that's like spinning it all together. And like, it's just, it's so, it meshes so well. There's a word I'm looking for. I can't think of right now, but I really think the fourth line play has been exceptional since Montgomery took over. And I think that they've really been like the spine of this team
Hmm.
since he started. So, but I think what's been clicking well in the past couple games, especially, has been offensive contributions from the defensemen. They've been getting more
Yeah.
involved, playing a lot less passive. It's been really huge. Also, I mean, I think we're starting to see like Jake Neighbors score more. He was on a bit of a goal streak, not necessarily consistent games, but I want to say like 4 goals in 3 games or something. Um, Jordan Kyrou still doing Jordan Kyrou things.
That was
The
crazy.
stars for the most part have been shining. And maybe not shining, but they've been doing their part. I still think Robert Thomas is a little bit quiet right now,
Hmm.
which is just crazy to think. Like, what if he breaks out of this too and starts going back to like December Robert Thomas? But I really think that they've been really like riding that structure, that solid, that hard nosed play from the WTF line. And it's just so awesome to me that we're talking about the fourth line as like the heart of the team, bringing it all together. I really think Braden Shen has used a lot of that in his game, bringing a lot of physical back checking, forechecking, again, just like hard, gritty play that
Hmm.
it wears teams down. I mean, by the end, by pretty much every third period of the last, I can't remember how many games I've watched, the Blues have dominated third periods because they just like wear you down, play harder than you for the full 60 minutes. Honestly, like
Yeah.
their first periods have typically not been quite as strong. I really think that they take that more marathon mindset, which against really skilled teams can be tough because that can put you behind and it's hard to catch up. But they really wear the defense down and create golden rebound opportunities for themselves. I think especially in the Minnesota game, they were really taking what I like to call quantity chances, just like firing pucks at the net. You know, maybe you get a lucky bounce, but you're making them, the defensemen, like, or really the whole team, skate back and forth. You know, between the neutral zone and your defensive zone, and really making them work and tiring them out. And they have been able to outlast and dominate late in the game, and that's been critical to their success.
Yeah. It's been an exciting brand of hockey, and like really they have found their identity as a team and as the, sort of sub units of that, each line, each pair, each unit. They have they're so cohesive, and it's so much fun to watch. But great play, great couple games here against the Wild and the Ducks. You love to see it. So super great play. So today, what we're doing is we're going to talk about some of the Blues' biggest issues from earlier on in the season, and sort of back into last season a little bit. Some of the areas that when you think about what is a weakness for this Blues team, those kinds of things. We're going to be talking about about those areas, keep in mind special teams, power play, penalty kill. Those have been frustrating for the Blues going back into last season. They have struggled to create enough scoring chances, at least were earlier on this year. We're going to check in on some of those weak areas and discuss, are the Blues, what are they doing to address those issues? What are they doing to resolve those issues? Because for a lot of these, if not all of them, they've looked a lot better in recent stretches. And so what do they need to do if they want to go on a tear down the stretch here, get the wild card? You can't have a huge weakness to your game when it's something so critical like your power play or your penalty kill. You need those to at least be average or thereabouts, if not more so, to really have a chance to make the playoffs, but more so than anything to have a chance to make some noise in the playoffs, because that's really the goal here at this point. So why don't we start with the special teams, because this has been the main one. I feel like it has dominated the conversation going back into the early Note News days when we were recapping the 23-24 season. This was one of the biggest weaknesses for the Blues, both the power play and the penalty kill, not looking great. And for most of this year, that has still been the case. Their power play currently sits at 19th in the league at 21.4%. I think it's up 2 spots after they went 3 for 3 last night. And so they're starting to look a little better in that. But really what this starts with is an inability to draw penalties. They don't have very many power play opportunities on the year. They're third lowest time on ice per game on the power play at 3 minutes and 49 seconds. This kind of shocked me that they are dead last in the NHL in power play opportunities per game, and it's not really all that close when you look at the other teams that are down there. They have 2.26 power play opportunities per game. They're last, as I said. The next one up is the LA Kings, 2.32. Chicago and Vegas tied at 2.33. Columbus, 2.35. Then you go up Edmonton, New York, Minnesota, up into the 2.5 areas. But St. Louis is dead to last. And look, there are some good teams like Vegas and Edmonton down in that range, but their power play is so effective, and they're also such good teams at 5-on-5 that the power play carries a little bit less weight. But it's just kind of baffling that the Blues aren't able to draw more penalties. I don't know if you have an explanation for that before we talk a little bit more, but I don't know. Why do you think they can't draw more penalties than they are? It's confusing.
Yeah, I think that's some of the physical play of like trying to wear down your opponent is just different than definitely like drawing penalties used to be something that the Blues were really good at as a team. That's something that Ryan O'Reilly has always been really good at. That's something that Tarasenko was like slept on elite at. That's something that Pavel Buchnevich used to be good at. But Buchnevich taking more of this sort of facilitator role rather than an active like offensive threat, I think has given him less opportunity to do so. Typically, it would be like O'Reilly or Tarasenko making like a using speed, but obviously those guys were never burners. Like they were sort of skating with defensemen and were just able to guard the puck a lot better. That I think the players on the roster right now don't necessarily have the skill to like draw a slash or a hook. I really think Dylan Holloway could get really good at that. He just doesn't really have the best puck protection right now. Maybe that'll be the next step in his development, which would be awesome. That would actually really complete his toolkit as a player, I think. But yeah, I just think the team right now plays really strong with their bodies, but not necessarily strong in their sticks. And in that sense, it doesn't really give them a chance to, it doesn't like give the defense a lot of chance to make a mistake if they can just easily lift your stick and snatch the puck, or just throw a hit. I think it's more that like, what I can't think of the metaphor right now, but like Sort of this crazy effort energy that we're seeing from the defensive effort, especially from the forwards. They're just like throwing their bodies every which way to get in front of shots and everything, which has been awesome. It's crazy, and I don't know how they haven't worn themselves like out of everything. Like the um trainer and medical staff or whatever is probably an underrated MVP of this year's Blues team, because like blocking that many shots in a night, playing as hard as they do, I don't know how half the team isn't like permanently injured. But yeah, I think really putting more focus on that, it just isn't really conducive to drawing penalties, which is playing with a lot of stick handling and strong playing strong in your stick. I just think that's probably not as much a part of their game, and definitely won't be for the remainder of this season and, knock on wood, postseason. But that could be a development that we see over the off season. I think it isn't. I think they've intentionally gone away from that, if I had to make an educated guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I mean that's where it starts, and so I don't know if it's just, and if it requires a big shift to their overall play style, I don't think that's something I want them to do, because whatever they're doing right now is working overall, and the results are there, and they're finding scoring at 5-on-5 and all that good stuff. So I don't think they need to do something drastic to address this. I just think it's something interesting. Like, it's not, I mean, technically 2.26 is not that far from 2.32, but like, you look at how close the other teams are, it's not all that close when it comes to the next fewest power play opportunities per game with the LA Kings. So it is just an interesting thing, and I don't know if it can be a small fix or something like that, then that would be something to look at. But yeah, like I said, um, don't want them to change up too much, and because it's working. But I think you laid it out pretty well. Um, but looking at their stats on the power play, so how are they performing on the power play? You look at things like scoring chances, expected goals. They're not fantastic. They're not tip top of the league or anything like that, but they're not as bad as the results. I think they're more average, or middle of the league, in all those regards than their power play would suggest, at 19th in the league, down at 21.4%. So whatever chances and looks they're generating on offense still hasn't really translated to actual goals. At least that hasn't shown up in the season numbers. So historically this season, there's been a lack of finishing on the power play. I think that speaks again to their need for a star, someone who can bury the puck when called upon, someone who can really show out and find that scoring on a top power play unit. But that's not something that they're going to be able to address this year. So I think that's more of an off-season discussion, but I think that's part of it. They also don't spend enough time in the offensive zone on the power play. They're below average in that regard. But we've talked a lot about the issues with their power play, and so I think what we're here today to do is to talk a little bit more about how's it looking lately, and what have they been doing to address these issues. Looking at their more recent stretch of games, it is hopefully, thankfully, starting to turn around when it comes to the power play. The frequency of power play opportunities issue, not so much. That's still looking pretty low, but that's okay. They're winning games right now. They're starting to see some better finishing ability, which is the big thing. I think in their last 10 games, they have scored on a third of their power plays, 33.3%. That's pretty solid. They, in their last 4 games, are 5 for 11 on power play opportunities. And then in their last 10 games, they had the 5th most goals for per 60, and they're shooting at 22.86% on the power play over the last 10 games. I mean, this is an improvement on all those issues I just laid out. They are finishing on the power play, and they are finding the net consistently on the power play over more than just a couple of games. Like, this is, as I said, going back 10 games or so. So, Alec, when you're watching this team, and we're all watching the Blues a lot right now while they've been hot, what do you think has been the reason for these improvements in recent games compared with early on in the season? Like, what have you seen recently that is encouraging down the stretch? What are your thoughts here?
I would say there's a couple big things. A big one is Zach Bolduc in that bumper spot, playing more in front of the net, in front of, and the way that they've been able to manipulate the zone defense too, I think has really played a lot better to those strengths. They've been sort of circling it around the center until the perfect opportunity opens up, and then usually like a Sundqvist or Thomas or Buchnevich, whoever's playing down low behind the net, gets off a quick pass, and Bolduc is ready there to, as they say, grip it and rip it, and put one home. And he's been really, really good on finishing. I think he's sort of an underrated player about how valuable is underratedly valuable to this power play success. We've all lamented the loss of ability of taking one timers ever since DP57 David Perron is gone. Now, this isn't me saying that I think that they should target him in the offseason, but that's something else. But I really think that Bolduc is starting to fit into that role, and maybe he isn't able to take like Ovechkin style, stick all the way above his head clapper one-timers, but he's got a really quick release, and if he can settle the puck on his stick and take more of a wrist shot, which is why playing in front of the net instead of like in the slot, which is much further out at a much more difficult angle, it doesn't even have to be the greatest shot, but as from my very earliest scouting reports on this channel on Zach Bolduc, his shot just sounds different. This is what that looks like, is like it doesn't have to be a perfectly picked corner or a perfectly lined up slap shot or anything. Even his wrister, like his release is just so strong that it's can find holes in a goalie setup if you just give him chances. And honestly, I think we've kind of seen that from Jake Neighbors too. I think we're starting to see the development of maybe Jake Neighbors' second trick. He's no longer just a tap-in merchant one-trick pony. I think he's also a close-to-the-net finishing merchant. So now he has two tricks. And those are very, very similar things. But more so, I think we're seeing his creativity really evolve in sort of the, I'll say, 10 to 20 feet around the crease. So sort of serving similarly. I don't think he has the shot that Zach Bolduc has, but he's got a quick release. It isn't quite as strong, but his hands are really quick. He also is a really quick thinker to where he can like make a quick pass, across the slot or across the crease from that opportunity. That Neighbors has been also sort of been serving like, I don't know, 30 to 50% of what Bolduc has been able to do. Bolduc's just got the size, got the defense, got a lot more to work with. But Neighbors has sort of blossomed, I think, into more playing more with his teammates. And also, I think maybe potentially we could be seeing the unlocking of Dylan Holloway on the power play unit. I think it was against Anaheim where he just had that absolute bomb of a slap shot power play goal. And that was a vintage like Alex Steen, David Perron, one-timer setup, Alex Ovechkin. Like that's what their power play goals look like. Holloway's never really shown a consistent ability to do that. And so if he can, he's always, been quick. He can be great with the puck on his stick, but if he can develop more of a shot than I think he had shown before. A lot of his goals had been from creativity and speed and not necessarily just brute force like power. Zach Bolduc was the power shooter and Jake Neighbors the other power forward. But if Dylan Holloway can develop more of like a powerful shot to his game, I think we're really starting to see them just open up their ability and their creativity and their options on the power play, because previously on the power play, we really just felt like Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, please save us. Like, please do something. now they're really able to get set plays. Also, I think their ability to win faceoffs has been much improved. Now, I think you could attribute a lot of that to competition they've been playing. I think that's
Hmm.
fair, but they've been winning a lot of faceoffs in the last couple games. And I think that's really helped them just maintain offensive pressure and, like I said, really tire teams out.
Yeah.
Um, and so I really think that I was going to say something else. Uh, just oh yeah, that that they've been able to create more opportunities for themselves
Hmm.
by having essentially more options. And it was really easy to defend when you know that it's going to be Broberg to Thomas to Broberg to Thomas to Kyrou to Thomas, slot pass to Buchnevich and hope it goes in when Buchnevich hasn't been good at taking one-timers like that. That's a really easy thing to defend. But when you have a much more diverse set of skills than just a essentially one set play like that,
Yeah.
when you have Bolduc able to play strong and in the slot, and so they really have to, or in front of the crease, teams really have to crash the net and defend that. That leaves your wings open for seam passes like so much of the time, or even you can pinch in a defenseman from the blue line and have them take more of a slap shot and create looks that way. So I think that they've just been able to be a lot more multiple and a lot more open on the power play, which just puts so much pressure on the defense. They haven't been easy to defend, and that's been creating more stress and more opportunities as a result.
Yeah, great breakdown there. Just looking at their power play units. So this is according to Daily Faceoff. The first power play unit, you've got Sundqvist, Buchnevich, Bolduc, Thomas, Fowler. Second unit, Neighbors, Shen, Holloway, Kyrou, Falk. Like, it is kind of crazy and a huge commendation to how far this team has come that I look at both of those units and I'm like, that's not terrible. Like, that's a solid unit. Everyone has a role to play on a unit like that, and I feel like the talent is spread out well enough between them that you have a legit opportunity for the full 2 minutes. And so I think, or 5 minutes, the full penalty. I think it's huge that these players as individuals have their roles established, have that confidence, and also have that performance to really earn the confidence of the coaching staff, of the fan base, all that. So I think they have looked fantastic in recent games, and I think you broke that down really well. Do you think this is what you've seen on the ice, real quick before we move on to the penalty kill, what you've seen in recent games as improvements to the power play? Do you think this is something that is like, okay, this is what the power play looks like now? Do you think it's something that's a little bit streaky? Really, do you think this is something that they can sustain over the remainder of the season? They've got 14 games left. Like, is this something that they can keep rolling for the remainder of the season?
Yes, absolutely. I think that this is totally something that can be kind of a strength for this team. Maybe not one of their top strengths, but can be not a liability like it
Yeah,
has been. Because,
yeah,
oh my God, I mean, we all watch the games. Boy, it was laughably bad. Like I was
yeah,
audibly laughing at my computer or my TV or my phone when, I try to see, we see like a Colton Parayko zone entry that leads into a turnover instantly. Like, oh my God.
yeah.
I do think establishing the zone does still maybe feel a little bit shaky to me. But
Hmm.
once they have the zone set up, and that's also why winning those faceoffs is so important. So perhaps you could say if they go against a team with a better center core, that could also be perhaps a bit of a liability, or maybe would be harder to set up. I'm not expecting them to go 3 for 3 in a game like they have been, but yeah, I absolutely think if they get a man advantage, which as we established is not going to be super often most likely, and that is sort of the weakness of the power play, is just it's not going to be around all as much as it could be. I really think that this could be like absolutely something that this team can reliably score goals on.
Nice. Music to my ears, man. I love to hear it. I think we should move on to the penalty kill, where the story is a little bit different, not quite as encouraging, but maybe we can take away some positives here. But just looking at at the penalty kill on the season. They are 29th in the league, 72.1%. I think that is bad. Hot take. That is not what you want for a team that is trying to make a case to be, one of the top 16 teams in the league here. You don't want an essential unit like the penalty kill to be that bad. And looking at sort of their full season stats here, they've allowed way too many goals. Fourth most goals allowed per 60 in the league on the season at 6.12. And it's not really a fluke because the expected goal numbers don't look great either. Ninth most expected goals allowed per 60, 8.48. Eighth most high danger goals allowed per 60, despite only allowing the 10th fewest high danger chances against per 60. It's looking rough. They've got the worst save percentage on the penalty kill, 7.94. They're tied for the 10th worst high danger save percentage, 7.63. It's not looking good. Hofer is second worst in the league and goals saved above expected on the penalty kill.
He's been bad.
Negative 6.8. Bennington looks a little bit better, but negative 0.7, 31st to last out of 94 goalies. So still like bottom third there. It's been bad. It's been bad for sure. I don't think there's any other way to say it. But since we're sort of talking about recent games, I don't think this is an issue that's on in my mind, and maybe you have a different take here, but this isn't due to the defense really. Maybe in some way, but like I think this isn't quite the fault of the defense. Just looking at stats since Four Nations, they have allowed the 12th most goals per 60. They have allowed the 6th fewest expected goals per 60, 4th fewest scoring chances against per 60, and 8th fewest high danger chances against per 60, but 12th most high danger goals against per 60. Like the numbers don't line up. They are by every metric preventing chances, preventing high danger chances, but they're still seeing a lot of goals end up in the net on the penalty kill. And I think the issue here is the goaltending. They're 6th to last since Four Nations in the NHL in save percentage on the penalty kill at 7.87. Before they played the Ducks' like horrific power play last night, they were last in that metric. They've got the 8th worst high danger save percentage on the penalty kill at 700. That was the second worst before last night. I believe around 500 on that one. So, I mean, this all looks like a goaltending issue to me. What's your take here? Am I right in suggesting that? Like, do you think this is on Hofer, Bennington? And is there anything the defense can do to like change their fortunes a little bit when it comes to how the goalies are performing here on the penalty kill?
Yeah, it is bad. And I think whereas it was revealed to me in a dream. Whereas the power play has been like sort of taken been on the up since it was so terrible. Yeah. The penalty kill has gotten arguably worse, which is interesting because Jim Montgomery has definitely always been a special teams guy. When he was in St. Louis, he was more of a power play help. I mean, I know he worked a lot with the penalty kill too, but the numbers for the power play just looked a lot better under his coaching. And in Boston, definitely like both special teams were elite. But penalty kill is supposed to be his forte, and the penalty kill has been maybe worse than it was under Drew Bannister, which is like weird. But this is something that I do definitely think is a pretty major weakness of this team is the penalty kill doesn't know what to do. I think goaltending has to do with it, but I don't know that I would put all of it or even most of it on goaltending. If you look, like, just go back and watch some of the power play goals that they're giving up. It's like, what do you want the goalie to do there? It's like they gave up a perfect. I think that Dallas Stars game, the most recent Stars game. Hang on, I got the schedule right in front of me. On the 2nd, so now 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks from yesterday, where we, outplayed them but lost 6-3. If you look at some of the power play goals allowed in that game, I think that they were 2 for 2 on their power play, maybe 3 for 3. Here, I can pull it up and not just make things up. But I think that game really highlights and shows exactly what I'm talking about with like I don't know how much of that I can put on the goalies because they're just they had 4 power play goals. Yikes. They were 4 for 4 on the power play.
Yeah.
They're just like it's Wyatt Johnston like 5 feet from the goalie, Hofer sliding across his crease because it was a perfect seam pass because nobody was defending like the seam as they should have been. Whether or not that's like, I'm not totally sure how Monty's going to go about fixing that. And maybe it is this defensive strategy of just throw your body around at 500% energy. And that's, on the power play when you're at a man disadvantage, that has been really able to be easily exploited. Perhaps that's what it is. But either way, I don't expect the penalty kill to get better. And I do think that is concerning, definitely. And somewhere that good teams are going to be able to pick apart the Blues is that
Yeah.
they are giving up so many high danger chances, so many looks. I know you read off the stats, but it looks really bad.
Yeah.
The
Right.
eye test may basically, like you said, that it maybe isn't all, the picture isn't totally lining up. If you're like watching the goals they're giving up, it's lining up to me. Like I think the goaltending certainly hasn't been great, but again, the chances that they're giving up are just like perfect power play looks that are you're one on one with the goalie, no defender, giving up the perfect slot pass, and there's just very little that they can do. And so I
Yeah.
do think that repeat myself one last time. I think it's an issue, and I think it will be an issue going forward. So that is something to monitor.
Yeah. Have you seen anything different in recent games? I'm thinking like past 5 or so games, past 10 games, because the penalty kill in the last four has been 7 for 7. And in their last 10 games, they are allowing a lot fewer chances and shots on the penalty kill. It's looking a lot better. And this is, again, a really small sample size. And it's something that they're going to need to keep up if they're going to, adjust the full season statistic, body of work in any regard. But like just in their past 10 games, they have allowed the sixth fewest shots per 60, the eighth fewest expected goals per 60, the 10th fewest scoring chances, and the eighth fewest high danger chances per 60. So all those numbers that I sort of read off about how bad they were on the season in their past 10 games, it's sort of been the other way around. They're looking better. And so I don't know, like have you seen anything different in this recent stretch that maybe they should pay attention to and try to make a focal point down the stretch here?
Yeah, I think what I've seen that's led to their success is a lot about zone entries and getting set up. I think if the Blues let the other power play unit get set up and basically manipulate them as they want, then the penalty kill has failed its job entirely, and a high danger shot attempt is imminent.
Yeah.
But I think they've been really good at, again, it's winning faceoffs, forcing them to like enter and set up the zone, establish the zone the hard way. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where they've been really good at defending. They're really good at crashing the puck, at trapping it along the boards, forcing them to play down low behind the crease. And that's exactly where the Blues like make their bread and butter, always have, is playing physical down behind the goalie net. No team, I wouldn't take any team against the Blues in that scenario. Just like franchise identity. I mean, that's what the blue note means, is we're gonna beat the you know what out of you if you're behind our goalie's net.
Yeah.
So or your goalie's net. Um, so I think that they've been really good at not letting them getting set up, whether that be zone entries or really good at chasing down dump ins. But again, once they get set up, I still think that it looks really shaky. And that's where they are pretty much relying on goaltending, which
Yeah.
isn't good at a man disadvantage. And that's where I could expect to see some regression for those numbers.
Yeah.
Um, but if they can maintain that they can win faceoffs and defend the blue line, there's always a chance.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. They're definitely doing a good job, like you said, preventing them from getting set up. but like once a team does get set up, the job of the penalty kill is to take away the best look and do your best to take away the next best look. Like that's all you can do. And they, while they're doing well, as you just broke down, preventing the other team from getting set up, they're just not taking away that best look consistently enough to really, have this be a strength or even something average about this team. So, Alec, how good would this team be, and where where do you think they would be in the standings if both special teams season long, to this point, were at least middle of the pack? Like, where do you think they'd be right now?
I think they'd be in the first wild card spot.
Yeah,
Like there have been a couple games where we definitely lost just based on power or on penalty kill alone. And if the power play, especially early in the season, weren't just anemic, I think they would be. I don't think this team is ever on the level of Colorado this season, who is just absolutely surging right now.
yeah,
But I think they would be stomping Minnesota for the first wild card spot right now.
I agree. Boy, boy, oh boy, if we could turn back time and watch that play out. But yeah, I think
Good old
special
days.
teams. Yeah, I think special teams are looking better in recent games. Here's hoping they keep it up. Another area I want to talk about is generating scoring chances at all strengths and in all situations. So like looking at their body of work for the entire season, they're not generating a lot of rebound shots. They've got the second fewest in the league, um, at 172 rebound shots on the season. Um, they are fourth. They have the fourth fewest shots per 60, the fourth fewest expected goals per 60, and then 11th fewest scoring chances and high danger chances for per 60. Or sorry, seventh fewest high danger chances for per 60. So like looking at the metrics you use to judge what kinds of opportunities they're getting, it's not looking very good. And that's just looking at the season, as I said, the full season of work. Um, I think what I see as the issue here, I want to get your take here as well, but like what I see as the story and the reason this season as why they, you know, aren't generating enough scoring chances is it's really just they're taking more shots from mid range than most NHL teams, and like that is when you look at high danger, mid range, and long range. Like mid range is by far where the Blues are shooting it from the most, and they're like in the 93rd percentile or something like that for shots on goal from mid range, but they're only like they're a lot closer and down to closer to average, down to earth when it comes to actual goals scored from mid range. So it's not like it's working super well. It hasn't translated into enough actual goals. And you look at like the other areas of the ice, they're scoring decently well from long range, despite not taking a lot of shots from there. Um, but the high danger area, like this is where they are not scoring and not finding enough opportunity in my mind. Um, is it just a style of play thing? Like, and do you think this works to just try to get it to mid range and score from there? Do you think they should change anything and try to seek out some more high danger chances? What are you seeing from this team this season when it comes to the chances and shots that they're able to generate?
Definitely speed is a big part of their game for sure. That wraparound goal from Kyrou, just
Chef's
beautiful.
kiss.
Yeah. But yeah, I really think I mean, my biggest take here, which is kind of lame, is that it's working. The boys are hot. The Blues are buzzing right now.
Yeah.
Don't mess with it. Um, but I really think I just don't really think that this team has the skill to be this methodical, Dallas Stars passing offense, or sometimes the Edmonton Oilers, who is just an offensive candy shop of video that you can they can play every style of offensive hockey because of that one guy. What's his name? Ryan Nugent Hopkins. Yeah, that's the one. Um, but I really think that this team is sort of offensively limited, and that they're relying on essentially like speed, and they're playing like Jim Montgomery hockey. Like this is exactly what Boston did, and now when he was head coach of Boston, and even like when they were good, is that they now to be fair they did have a little bit more. They had sort of this methodical, slow option with Marchand, and when Bergeron was still playing, that was sort of a mode that they could do, and obviously McAvoy as a facilitator is the piece this team does not have. But I do think that they really lean more into like what we saw from Boston this year, and obviously what we've seen the Blues do is that they're gonna need to be like play hard and play fast and wear down the defense to create those opportunities. Crash the crease is a big one, like crashing the net and just putting pressure on the defense, essentially like beating them down until they make the mistake and allow the goal. And you just kind of have to like hope it works. There isn't really another like, yeah, they can't turn into like this analytical like we're going to create the perfect zone, open the pass, and just rip a one-timer, and there's nothing you can do, which is satisfying. But even then, like the closest thing we've seen to that are the set plays that they've had on power plays, which only happens at a man advantage, which they can do. Like they can have someone like sort of hanging around the crease, but at 5-5, that's super easy to defend. So it really has to be like crash the crease, wait a second. If the look isn't there, clear out, let the next guy try. So yeah, I think asking about scoring chances, my biggest takeaway is that I really think that they're just going to have to continue to do what they've been doing. And offensively, this team is going to do what they're going to do really well. But if now there hasn't been an answer for that, but say like I don't know. I think the Florida Panthers would be a really tough matchup for this Blues team. Now, believe it or not, they'd be a pretty tough matchup for. I made it up. They'd be a really tough matchup for 31 other NHL teams. But you get my point that the really stalwart defensive teams, Winnipeg excluded, I should say the really fast defensive teams, are really going to have a hard time playing against the Blues. And this is looking way too far ahead. But number one in the West is a really favorable matchup for these guys right here.
That is something I want to talk about later on for sure, because that's something I've been thinking about as well. But just sort of bringing it back to the scoring chance discussion, as is the case with both special teams units, these numbers are looking better in their last 10 games. This is another reason why they've been so effective and so hot in their recent stretch. Like they are fourth best in the league when it comes to expected goal percentage. They're finding a lot of more quality chances and a lot more quantity chances as well, as you mentioned a little bit earlier on. Like both are coming.
They love their quantity chances.
Both are coming. They are like Corsi percentage is really good. Taking a bit of a page out of the Corsi Canes playbook there. Like the Carolina Hurricanes live and breathe off of quantity chances, and it works for them. And it's been working for the Blues right now, but they're also getting those quality chances. Like their Fenwick looks really good. That's unblocked shot percentage. They're finding a lot of that. As I mentioned, expected goals look great, and their shooting percentage in the last 10 games is second best in the league. They're shooting about 14.5%, which isn't like crazy. It's not out of the park unsustainable. But they are tied in the last 10 games. They are tied at the top of the league with Colorado for most goals scored. They have scored 41 goals in 10 games. It's crazy. Who would have thought? It's crazy. And like one of the things we talked about early on in the season is a lot of their shot attempts were just missing the net for some reason. That looks a lot better as well. I think by some regards, their offense, by some metrics, looks like a little unsustainable. Like maybe they're hitting above their weight or something like that. But the results are coming right now. And so whatever works. And lately it's been working. So do you have any thoughts on what has sort of prompted this turnaround? Because like under the hood metrics look good for the most part, and then the actual on ice results, the actual goals and things like that, um, those look great. Those look even better. So I mean, how do you think they're creating more offense in this recent stretch?
I think I really like, and this is kind of lame to say, I think it's just like players figuring it out. I think it's Zach Bolduc figuring out how to stop missing the net and how to start, just peppering those quantity chances. I think it's been Jake Neighbors being re-unlocked as again a two-trick pony now.
Yeah,
He can shoot from close and he can tap in from close or play make from close.
there you go.
So I think he's been able to be harder to defend. I think again, a lot of what I've been saying on this episode, I feel like is just the Blues have found ways to be more multiple and be more available and just harder to defend. And I think that's really um, something like looking back, maybe I wouldn't have been able to identify, but now that we've sort of seen the success come in different ways, I think that's the biggest thing is like thinking back, playing defense against the St. Louis Blues, especially back when they were really struggling, like, yeah, that would be the easiest job in the NHL. No wonder they couldn't win more than 3 games in a row, because if you just put everyone on the blue line, they're never going to set up offensive pressure and they don't have the skill to figure out how to do that. So now that the team has been able to find different ways to make zone entries, having typically one forward power through, drop it off for another who then can like pass it across to the open, the break side across the way, that can allow you to get set up. They found ways to enter the zone. They've been winning faceoffs, which is huge. I really feel like I'm repeating myself here, so stop me if you think none of this is like analytical enough. But I think it's all working together in making it so that there isn't a perfect note card that tells you exactly how to stop this team, which I think like the book was out on the Blues offense before, and now it's like Bolduc being, as I said, just really coming into his own in the last third of the season has been huge. Fowler and Broberg helping out offensively has been huge. Torpchenko, like remembering how to score points has been helpful. Shout out the point counter there.
Torpo meter.
Yeah. Obviously Shen bringing the physical edge that he always has. I think Thomas has been skating better. I think they've been relying less on like Colton Parayko to just carry the puck the whole 200 feet basically, and relying more on like getting guys 2 or 3 seconds with the puck and then they'll drop it off to a teammate. And I think just really like everyone's buying into this system a lot better, and I think you can see it in the results.
Yeah, for sure. Just looking at some, I mean, I feel like the players you touched on there are really the big ones here. In the last 10 games, Zach Bolduc, 6 goals, 2 assists. Jake Neighbors, 5 goals, 6 assists. Holloway, 5 and 5. Braden Shen, 4 goals, 6 assists. You look at every line and you're seeing some decent offensive production. Like even as you mentioned, Alexei Torpchenko in his last 10, 2 goals, 4 assists. Like Torpometer to the moon right now. I mean, it is looking good, and it's looking good on all 4 forward lines. Cam Fowler is making plays. He's got 8 assists in his last 10. Justin Falk is as well, 6 assists in his last 10. So you're getting contributions all up and down the ice, in both the goals and the assists column. Like the team is really hot right now, and as you said, it does seem like a lot of guys figuring it out. Bolduc, Neighbors particularly, looking really good right now. And so I will say, like, one of the things that Montgomery said a little bit earlier on into his Blues tenure is that he wanted to be careful not to be rash when adjusting or when addressing the team's current season issues, right? He had more of a long-term approach because of this team's timeline, at least what it was perceived to be when he was hired, being okay, maybe next year, maybe the year after, like that's when we'll be really, really ready to go for it. He sort of had that mindset, at least um, in what he was saying to sort of the media and the fans and things like that. That he's got more of a slow approach to it. How can we fix this team and this system for the future? And if that has led to this, which it has, because there hasn't been like an overhaul of who's on this team, it is how this team is currently playing. It is not like you're sitting big players who were getting too many minutes or anything like that. Like people have their roles, as I've said a couple times already. It is balanced out, and there is a system and a structure in place that is working. And so I think Jim Montgomery's sort of long-term approach to coaching this team has been really the perfect solution here. It's like the secret ingredient to this team that they were missing was Jim Montgomery, and it's amazing what a head coach like him can accomplish in such a short time, bringing this team back from the brink to tied with Vancouver at the top right now. Man, it's really exciting to watch the Blues play under Jim Montgomery, and so I am ecstatic that we've got him locked up for 5 years.
Can't believe it.
Cannot believe it. Yeah, for sure. So just looking ahead, like we always do.
Love.
Yeah, I love the love for Toropchenko in the chat. Keep it coming. He's
Keep it for now. I think the off-season spoilers. I'm probably going to be singing a different tune, but he's been playing great. I'll admit.
It's crazy
For a little bit.
Crazy. Just looking ahead a little bit, the Blues still have the easiest schedule remaining. They've only got 14 games left. Vancouver, I believe last time we checked in on this, they were like 8th most difficult or something like that. They're now up to 3rd most difficult. So it looks like they got some of their easier opponents out of the way. Utah looking at 16th most difficult, Calgary 19th most difficult. But Calgary does have those 3 games in hand. Who else? Vancouver, they have 1 game in hand. Utah, 1 game in hand. So, Alec, I'm just gonna keep doing this every episode. How you feeling about the race? It is every time we talk, there's gonna be some shuffle in these standings because it is tight. So, how are you feeling about how this team is playing and their outlook for the remainder of the season? 14 games left.
I'm sorry. Every time we talk, I feel better. Like we the worst stat to use here, we have the best goal differential of the remaining, including Minnesota, which means that clearly we're just getting unlucky, obviously. But no, the one thing that gives me the most pause is Calgary has 3 games in hand and they're only 2 points behind. So they could rocket ahead in the standings. That is stressing me out. But honestly, like I really think it arguably is between us and Calgary right now. Yeah. Utah has been on a bit of a heater. In their last 10, they're 6-2-2. But that's only like after winning 1 game. So they had lost a couple before that. So, and they are still kind of a team trying to find an identity. Definitely still have to keep an eye on Utah, but I think we've safely distanced ourselves. And I think with our remaining schedule, I like our chances essentially against Utah. Vancouver is just not past the vibe test all season, and they haven't been getting the goaltending. And I just don't know that this team, Vancouver, has the mental fortitude to overcome this and make a playoff push. And it really feels like they've been out of it for several months now, and they kind of know that. Calgary is interesting because they are really just getting absolutely carried by goaltending towards the finish line. Insane. Respect, he's a dog for sure. Yeah. But I don't know that that's a much harder thing to bank on for the remainder of a season, because even, Bennington was playing great. And then maybe he's had a couple games that weren't so exceptional post 4 Nations. So that can be something that changes, in kind of the blink of an eye. So really for Calgary, the bottom could fall out at any time, but the boys are buzzing. Like, I like our chances better than anybody here. I seriously think we are the most talented team of any non-divisional spot team in the Western Conference. I think we're better than Minnesota. I think we're better than Vancouver. I think we're better than Calgary, Utah, and then obviously we're better than everybody that we're 10 points ahead of in the standings. I really think that they can absolutely go on a run here. We've talked about strength of schedule. We've talked about the power play being a potential strength that can help them win more games than they have been. Like, I really, every time we talk, I feel a little bit better about our chances, and that's usually in such a tight wild card race. That's kind of a hard thing to say, but I don't know. It just, sports magic kind of feels like it's turning our way.
The Blues are definitely, the hottest of all the teams in it right now. Calgary, they have the fewest goals scored in the entire league this season. Like, it's not like their offense is carrying them. Their defense is okay, but like, I wouldn't say that's an elite level core. They are absolutely being carried by goaltending for sure. But goaltending can do wonders. So yeah, that is a little concerning. But just looking ahead at some of their upcoming games, like this week could be really big for the standings in this race. They're playing Toronto tonight. That's like right now, actually. They're about to start. New York tomorrow, New Jersey on Thursday. Then they play the Islanders, Seattle, but then they're playing Dallas, Edmonton, Colorado, Utah all in a row. Like, they need to win their games in this stretch just as much as the Blues do. Like, they still have a lot of pressure, and so it is an exciting race for sure. They are, like, as you sort of said, I agree. They are the main one that worries me, but I feel good about this Blues team right now, and I have loved what we've been seeing from them in this recent stretch. So here's hoping they keep it up. Who do we got next? Who are they playing later this week? Yeah.
It's Nashville tomorrow. Today's Monday. Today's Sunday.
Yeah.
Today's Monday. Sorry. Nashville tomorrow in Nashville. Then it's Vancouver at home. Let's go. Then it's Chicago at home and Nashville at home back to back. And then, I mean, that's a little bit looking ahead now, but then it's Montreal, Nashville, Colorado. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 games that we should win 5 of.
You should be able to take a lot of points.
Can easily win 7, but like should probably win 5.
You can win points in every Nashville game. You should, against the Blackhawks. And then that Vancouver game, like, this is a big one. If you are in St. Louis and are waiting for a sign or an excuse to go see the Blues, go to that game. That's going to be
it's going to be so rowdy.
An amazing atmosphere and a huge one for this wild card race. So this is an important stretch, and this is something another issue that we have talked about this team having, especially last year, is playing down to bad opponents. That hasn't really been the case. They just put up 7 against Anaheim. Not that Anaheim is like
for the second time this season.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think they really need to find some
against Anaheim this season.
They really need to find some consistency here down the stretch. They can't be laying an egg against a bad team, frankly. They can't afford for either goalie to go out and have a bad performance like Binnington did against Pittsburgh. So that was really tough. But this is an important stretch, and it's go time. It has been for a while, and they know it. You can tell they know it. They are playing super well right now. Do you have the numbers added up, Alec?
Yes. So we have played the Ducks 3 times, obviously. Our first game was a 6-2 win. Then it was a 4-3 win, and then a 7-2 win. So that is 17 goals scored against Anaheim to 7 goals against. So a plus 10 goal differential against the Anaheim Ducks this season, who like aren't bottom feeders. Like they're a bad
No.
team. You know, they're out of the playoff race, but they were in the playoff race for a while.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So here's hoping they keep it rolling. Really important stretch coming up, like we've been saying, and I think they, at least recency bias uh, is real, but I think they have responded well to the issues that they had early on in the season. Montgomery's a big part of that, but I hope they keep it up. Like this is something that I think is sustainable for the next 14 games. So they got hot at the right time, I think, and um, here's hoping they keep it going. Knock on wood. I've
Let's
been doing
go.
that a lot lately, but it's go time, and we'll be here to break down this wild card race for the remainder of the season. Super exciting one, so be sure to tune in to future Note News episodes. If you haven't already, we'd appreciate if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the best way to help us out. Like this video. We're doing a giveaway on Twitter right now, so if you want to win a free Cardinals hockey jersey, go follow us on Twitter at Note News Pod. We have a tweet pinned in our profile. Like that tweet to enter and follow us. As I said, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you get a second entry. Post proof of that subscription in the comments. Double your chances of winning that really cool Cardinals hockey jersey. So go check that out for sure. If you're on audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, follow and rate wherever you listen. And then check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Note News Pod. We appreciate everyone for tuning into this episode. We'll see you next time. Let's go Blues.
Let's